Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to Nehekara. Yes, indeed, we're here with the Tomb Kings, finally released. Played a ton of battles yesterday with the release, and even had a bit of a live stream. For those of you who missed it, feel free to go back and watch. It should be posted in your sub box as a normal video. It's about 3 hours long, so I understand if you don't want to watch the whole thing, but I definitely got a lot of Tomb Kings action in. So in this first kind of recorded video I did of the Tomb Kings, I wanted to bring you guys a mirror match so that we can just kind of talk about some different things, look at some of the cool new units, and yeah, we'll go from here. So let's talk a bit about the Tomb Kings characters first of all. So this is Arkhan the Black here. He's a legendary lord, one of the legendary lords for the Tomb Kings, a lieutenant of Nagash. He is, you know, fighting against the other Tomb Kings for the most part. He's a spellcaster with the Lore of Death. One thing to note about all Tomb Kings characters is pretty much all of them, with a couple of exceptions, have this 25% fire weakness. So flaming damage is going to be very, very strong against Tomb Kings characters. So, you know, for somebody like Volkmar the Grim, for example, who has innate flaming attacks, or a dragon, for example, one of the High Elves variants of dragons, all have flaming attacks. So they'll be potentially very good at gooning Tomb Kings characters. Another thing to note about Tomb Kings characters is they each carry a curse. So Arkhan the Black has one that a lot of the other legendary lords have, which is basically like a Fate of Buna type, you know, direct damage effect in that area of effect. It goes off automatically when his hit points drop below 50%, and yeah, only gets used one time. So if he drops below 50% and then gets healed back above that, it won't go off again. It only goes off one time in that large area of effect, and it's good against units with multiple combatants or multiple unit models. So very strong. The heroes all likewise have a curse. The Tomb Prince here, who's the hero I've brought alongside Arkhan here, he indeed has the Curse of Joff, which gives the -26 melee attack and rampage. This one is actually castable. It doesn't activate automatically, so you actually need to cast this one. When he drops below 50% HP, you can then target a specific area. In addition, one other thing to note about the Tomb Prince is he does have this Guardian ability, which we haven't seen yet in Game 2. It was on some of the Regiments of Renown for one of the Game 1's factions. I believe, you know, the Beastmen, Chaos, and I believe the Wood Elves had a unit with Guardian. But basically, this guy is a bodyguard, so he gives all nearby lords and heroes 22% physical resistance. So keeping him riding along with Arkhan, he'll give him that 22% physical resistance. You can see Arkhan is currently under that effect. In addition, he also has armor-piercing anti-large, solid combat stats, only 70 armor with a bronze shield, but overall a very strong character. That armor-piercing anti-large in particular makes him a great duelist against other lords and heroes that are, you know, on any kind of mount, which they almost always will be. In terms of other units here, Arkhan the Black has a unique faction that actually has access to a couple of Vampire Counts units, which is why you see here I've got 2 units of Crypt Ghouls, one on each flank of the infantry formation. We've also got 2 units of Direwolves way out on the flanks, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I've brought these guys in just a moment. In terms of the rest of the army composition, we've got 2 Ushabti here, melee variant, dual sword to back up the main line, which is 4 skeleton spearmen, just nice cheap anti-large fodder units. In addition, we've got the Regiment of Renown Necrosphinx. So the Necrosphinx is basically like a Shaggoth. You can think of it in the same way. It's a big, killy, armor-piercing, anti-large monster with terror. In addition, the Regiment of Renown has flaming and magical attacks, which once again, flaming attacks is going to be very good for gooning Tomb Kings characters, which is why I really like this guy in this mirror matchup. Of course, heavy armor-piercing, anti-large weapon strength, fear and terror. Also has a construct keyword. So if you guys will notice, undead units have the undead keyword, right? So if you mouse over them, you see this little skull hand symbol basically denotes that they are an undead unit. Likewise, the constructs have a similar keyword. They have this symbol here that kind of looks like a little statue, and it says construct. So essentially they're the same as undead in that they are unbreakable and they crumble when their leadership is you know, drops below 0 rather than routing. However, they aren't healed by abilities. For example, the Tomb King's army-wide ability, the Realm of Souls, when your skeletons die, the more skeletons die, you'll proc 3 of these charges of Realm of Souls. Each one gets successively more healing, but you'll notice in the keyword there, it only, I believe, let's see, It's supposed to only target undead units, but it looks like it may not actually say so in the tooltip, which is very interesting. But it does only affect undead units. Some of the other abilities as well, you'll see only affect undead, target if undead, so on and so forth. So you need to be able to watch. Likewise, there's the Necrotect Hero, which neither of us have brought in this matchup, who can heal constructs and has a number of abilities that are pertinent to them specifically. So that's pretty much it for my army composition. I've also got these Necropolis Knights with Halberds, which is basically like Demigryph Knights with slightly worse combat stats and poison attacks. You know, armor-piercing anti-large, a monstrous cavalry, so very fun stuff. Let's go ahead and have a look at Black Iron Battle's build. He's the one who I'll be fighting in this match. He has brought Khatep on foot. Yes, indeed, Grand Hierophant Khatep, who can take a number of different mount choices, brought only on foot here. Khatep is the only, one of the only, I should say, Tomb King's characters that is not weak to fire damage. That being said, Grand Hierophant Khatep is just kind of flimsy in general. Only 40 armor, pretty poor combat stats, 300 weapon strength. He's really a caster lord, so he's generally squishy, you know, in any situation. So rather than being weak to fire, he's just weak to any kind of melee combat. He's, you know, very strong caster. A lot of winds of magic regeneration. He has the Lore of Nehekara, which every time you cast a spell gives a healing proc to all units. You can see target if undead, so it does only target the undead units. It will not heal your constructs, but you know, will heal all the skeleton infantry and so on. Likewise, most of the Tomb King's heroes have the undead keyword as well, so he'll heal himself with that. Basically, you can cast these different spells here. You know, this is basically like a Melkos Mystifying Miasma. It does a little bit more damage and is a little bit more expensive, but that's the Assyrian's Incantation of Vengeance. Very cool spell. We've also got the Incantation of Righteous Smiting. 7 winds of magic for 40% armor piercing and 40% regular missile damage. This definitely helps buff up the Tomb King's missiles, which, interestingly enough, the Tomb Kings are actually a very powerful missile faction. So they do have skeleton archers, which are a relatively cheap and flimsy unit. They have abysmal leadership at 48, even stacked all together with leadership support. Terrible combat stats, but they do have 140 range, decent missile damage. Only 1 armor piercing, but still, you know, considering they're unbreakable essentially. Well, they will crumble, but they're, you know, unbreakable kind of archer unit. Very strong. And what makes them even stronger is this Regiment of Renown right here, the Blessed Legion. These guys have an armor sundering ability, basically like the Rusty Heirs, essentially. Slightly longer range and obviously better combat stats, being a Regiment of Renown. But if you combine these guys with several other units of skeleton archers, the pure volume of fire here with the armor sundering can do a lot of damage. And in addition, these guys, who I'm sure you guys have already seen a lot of and will continue to see a lot of, the Bow Ushabti here, the Ushabti with great bows, do a ton of armor-piercing missile damage. Super cool-looking unit as well. Yeah, they do heavy AP missile damage and can just absolutely lay down fire on infantry, cavalry, and large units. So very powerful. They also have great range at 255, which is, you know, basically a demi-artillery range. And yeah, this Regiment of Renown, Chosen of the Gods here, Ushabti with Great Bow, their special ability is they have this shield breaker trait, so when they hit people with their missiles, essentially it lowers their missile block chance, meaning that other missiles can make more solid contact. So again, between the 2 Regiments of Renowned Skeleton Archers and the Bow Ushabti here, you have a lot of tools for being able to make your missiles more effective. And especially with, you know, the Incantation of Righteous Smiting that Khatep has, I definitely see how Black Iron was going for a very heavy missile build. He's also got 3 units of Tomb Guard here with a Skeleton Spearman, the Kepper Guard, which are the Regiment of Renown Tomb Guard that have dual-wield swords and regeneration, kind of like the Stearnsmen, but more of an offensively focused unit, but they do have regeneration as well. 1 unit of Tomb Guards with halberds in the back. The Tomb Guards with halberds are a lot like the Temple Guard in that they can take shields and halberds, armor-piercing anti-large. They're very much unlike the Temple Guard in that they have pretty poor combat stats and only 50 armor. So that's still a very useful unit, though, definitely. And that's pretty much it for Black Iron's composition. He's got Tomb Prince running out here in front, who's gonna get caught out here by Arkhan and his buddy. And Arkhan has a one of the reasons why he's so good in this mirror matchup is he actually has an item that if we look here, that's actually the Tomb Prince. So Arkhan's item, it gives AoE healing around him, and notice it doesn't say target undead only, so this can actually heal any unit in the Tomb King's roster, construct or undead, and it also gives himself fire damage, which is very, very important for killing Tomb King's characters. I'm going to be popping this sword very shortly here as we try and goon this Tomb Prince as quickly as possible, and just watch what happens to him. So as soon as that buff pops off, we'll go ahead and mouse over that and just watch what happens to this poor Tomb Prince. The Tomb Prince doesn't have a whole lot of armor anyway, and that's one thing about the Tomb Kings. You can see there he has dropped that flaming damage, so you can see he's got flaming attacks. And it actually gives flaming attacks in an AoE. Interesting. So the Tomb Prince also has flaming attacks as well. So between the two of them and that Spirit Leech, they're going to put down this Tomb Prince in a huge hurry. Just watch as he gets completely decked by Arkhan and his buddies here. And yeah, Tomb Prince is not in for a good time. He's already down and out for the count. And you can see all across the line we're going to be engaging. Necropolis Knights charging into the Tomb Guard. Obviously, we don't want to be going into the anti-large troops. They'll be pretty decent here. Tomb Guard don't have the most armor for an elite tier infantry. But all across the line, we've been able to kind of tie down the units of archers with the hounds early on. And then to bring up the skeletons without having been shot up too much. You can see the Necrosphinx as well has got his eyes set on the Grand Hierophant Khatep, going to be trying to take him out as quickly as possible. This ability here, you saw that was similar to the Shield of the Old Ones, is actually another ability that Arkhan has. Gives an area of effect 44% physical resistance, which is absolutely huge. Another reason why flaming and magical attacks are going to be very good against the Tomb Kings. I would definitely recommend anyone who can bring Lore of Fire to do so. We are tying down these 2 units of Bo Ushabti with this 1 Skeleton Spearman, which is a really nice value for me. We've got a Crypt Ghoul that's chased these Skeleton Spearmen all the way to the side of the map here and is currently taking them out. This mainline fight is very pitched. My troops, my infantry, is losing pretty decisively to the Tomb Guard and the Kepler Guard here. Thankfully, the melee Ushabti are holding admirably here. You can see the Necrosphinx is rampaging around, trying to finish off these archers here, and poor Khatep is on foot and is not able to get away from Arkhan and his buddy here. Even though he's not weak to fire damage, he'll still take a ton of damage just straight up. I mean, obviously, Spirit Leeches and so on will do a lot of damage to him, but just the melee from Arkhan and his buddy here should be enough to put poor Khatep down. So, bye-bye, Grandpa Khatep. You had a good run, but with Khatep down, that's going to put the balance of power slightly in my favor. You can see the Tomb Kings, though, still holding up very well, or the forces of Khatep, I should say, holding up very well still, all things considered, on the balance of power. He is getting that Realm of Souls healing. I've got 2 levels. I believe he's on the 3rd level, which means we should see a unit of Ushabti summoned relatively shortly. Yes, indeed. Looks like the Ushabti summon on the far side, trying to tie down these Crypt Ghouls, but it looks like the cast time was a little bit too long, and they didn't actually get on top of the Crypt Ghouls to tie them down. So now Crypt Ghouls have 38 speed, whereas the Ushabti have 54, so the Ushabti will definitely be able to catch them. But, you know, tying down 1 unit of only 500 resources probably isn't the best. It's really hard to say, you know, and everyone's still trying, obviously, still trying out new things, but it may have been better to summon that Ushabti in this mainline engagement here to try and finish off my Ushabti and my infantry here. You can see the Necrosphinx, though, has got his sights set on these Bo Ushabtis since the Spearmen that were tying them down just got finished off. We need to bring this Necrosphinx over here and start finishing off these Bo Ushabti, or else they're going to be able to put in a ton of work against him. You can see he's already taking some armor-piercing missile fire, so Black Iron's going to do exactly what he should in this situation, which is to split up the 2 units, so regardless of which one I chase, the other one's going to be able to turn on fire on me in any situation. Arkhan and his Tomb Prince buddy are going to be coming over to this mainline fight, trying to give some leadership support to what remains of my Ushabti here. I've also got my Ushabti summoned now, so you can see I've summoned them right on top of these Tomb Guard here. They're going to be trying to take down what's left of Black Iron's infantry here. We've been able to mop up most of the archers here. There's just a few Skeleton Spearmen holding out, and 1 unit of Skeleton Archers running away from these Skeleton Spearmen here. But yeah, so far, so pretty close, honestly, all things considered. Losing Khatep and that Tomb Prince early on was pretty devastating because the Tomb Kings, like the Vampire Counts, suffer from relatively low leadership, and obviously their units are unbreakable in a sense, in that they don't actually rout, they just crumble. But they will start crumbling pretty easily if you lose your leadership units, so you need to try and keep the Tomb King's characters alive, which can definitely be tricky, especially against someone like the Empire, or, you know, Chaos, or the Dark Elves, for example, who have a lot of single target and damage, and the ability to bring single target flaming damage specifically with Flaming Sword of Ruin and other like abilities. It makes them very, very powerful. Necrosphinx, though, is one of the coolest new units in the game, in my opinion. Especially this Regiment of Renown one. I just love the color scheme he has. The gold and the white and the red just looks super clean, really classy. He's the Gucci, the Louis Vuitton Necrosphinx here, if you will. So he's going to be battling it out here, trying to not get bogged down by these Tomb Guard with the halberds for too long, because obviously they'll do a lot of damage. You can see those Ushabti, the Chosen of the Gods, are indeed crumbling. This unit's still holding their morale together temporarily, but Arkhan and his buddy are just kind of holding out here. The physical resistance, and Arkhan does have 90 armor as well, means that he'll be able to, you know, just kind of tank out a lot of the damage here. Same thing with the Tomb Prince. I mean, obviously he doesn't have physical resistance and he has slightly less armor, but he'll be able to tank out a lot of damage here, and they're just going to be racking up the kills on this kind of low tier. I guess I say low tier. Tomb Guard are actually supposed to be high tier infantry, but again, they only have 50 armor, and for kind of a mid to high tier infantry, that's pretty low. And that's one of the things, one of the major weaknesses of the Tomb Kings is their relatively poor infantry. They don't have any heavy armored infantry. The only heavy armor units they have are the constructs, so you really have to rely on the constructs to help supplement your skeletons. But you still do need skeletons. I mean, you're not going to get the Realm of Souls proc if you don't have enough skeletons to die, because you actually need the skeletons to die off in order to be able to proc that. So a little bit of give and take. I do think that the Tomb Guard are a solid unit overall. I've had them do very well against the Skaven and the Wood Elves and so on. But definitely the constructs and the magic and kind of the specialty units are where you're going to need to make your bank with the Tomb Kings. Their frontline infantry just really can't stand up to a lot of other factions. So you can see I brought the Necrosphinx over just to try and support here. You can see Arkhan and his buddy here kind of going back to back, you know, just circling the wagons, beating off all the rest of these Tomb Guard and the Kepler Guard and everything, trying to finish things off here, getting the support of the Necrosphinx. You can see the bounce power starting to shift more and more in my favor, and the forces of Khatep are going to disintegrate. So, very well played to Black Iron Battles. Of course, I'll have a link to his channel down in the description below. He does indeed do Warhammer Total War. He's also doing a Blood Bowl League with a bunch of other people in the community. I am not personally participating because I don't have Blood Bowl 2 on Steam, but I know Turin, Gobble King, many of the other beloved community members are going to be participating in a Blood Bowl tournament that Black Iron is putting on, so definitely go check his channel out for that. In terms of this battle here, it was an interesting battle, all things considered. I really like the followers of Nagash, specifically in this mirror matchup. Arkhan the Black, with his flaming damage and the regeneration, is very good at killing other Tomb King's characters. Lore of Death makes him even better in that role, with Spirit Leech and everything. You know, the Tomb Prince as a bodyguard just helps make him a little tankier and a little more killy. The 96 kills and a lot of high-value work done with this Necrosphinx here. The Regiment of Renowned Necrosphinx is probably my new favorite unit. It's tough to say, but even the regular Necrosphinxes are very impressive, but especially this guy, again, with the mirror matchup, you're going to want that flaming damage as much as possible to kill the other characters, so really like this guy here. The Necropolis Knights didn't end up doing a whole lot. I'm actually really underwhelmed by these guys. I have used them in a few other battles as well, and they just don't really seem to pay for themselves. I'm not sure. I'll have to play around with them a little bit more, but the Ushabti did very well in helping that mainline engagement. Same thing with the Crypt Ghouls. The Crypt Ghouls are actually very good against the Tomb King's infantry since they generally lack armor. Crypt Ghouls are going to be good against anything with, you know, 50 or less armor, so pretty much all the Tomb King's infantry they'll be good against. Same thing with the Dire Wolves. These guys are mostly just here to help tie down archers in the back line, kind of harass. The Tomb Kings don't have a unit this fast on the ground, so it's useful to have. Let's go ahead and actually look at the followers of Nagash, and I can kind of show you what makes them special compared to the other Tomb Kings factions. So let's go ahead and actually, looks like I've got it pulled up already. So the followers of Nagash are Arkhan the Black's special faction. So you only have access to the basic Tomb King or Arkhan the Black when you're playing as them. However, you do get access to Crypt Ghouls, Hex Wraiths, Fellbats, and Dire Wolves, which are all really nice utility type units. For example, against the Beastmen, if they don't bring Devolve or Fate of Buna, the Hex Wraiths can be very good against them. Any low armor faction like Beastmen, Skaven, or the Tomb King's mirror matchup, Crypt Ghouls are going to be a great pick as well. Hounds are an excellent unit for the Dire Wolves, I should say, are an excellent unit for pressuring the backline. 95 speed gives them a fast attack option that the Tomb Kings generally lack. Their light cavalry option, the Skeleton Horsemen and the Nehekara Horsemen, have 76 and 78 speed respectively, which is on par with the faster heavy shot cavalry. Like, for example, if we look at Dragon Princes here, and I know these units are way off in terms of cost, but just to give you a little bit of a comparison, Dragon Princes are 78 speed as well. And so these, for light cavalry, they're some of the slowest light cavalry in the game. I mean, you compare these guys to like Goblin Wolf Rider archers or something who have 90-something speed, you know, on par with the Dire Wolves. The Dire Wolves really give the Tomb Kings, at least the followers of Nagash, a nice fast attack option that they otherwise lack. The Fellbats kind of play the same role as the Carrion, except that they are a little bit different in that they have a lot more unit models, obviously, but they're a very similar unit, kind of a tie-down flying unit. But I really like the inclusion of the Crypt Ghouls, the Hex Race, and the Dire Wolves in particular. Fellbats I'm not the biggest fan of in the first place, especially when Carrion kind of fulfill the same role, but still cool to have them. And yeah, I definitely like the followers of Nagash in this mirror matchup. So let me know what you guys think. I've been really enjoying playing the Tomb Kings. I think they're one of the best balanced DLCs that Creative Assembly's put out for Total War Warhammer so far. Let me know if you guys agree with that statement. But it's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.